My name is Mad Boots. That's Hove. And basically, this is the struggle.
How do you feel about the vibe and the frequency of music right now? Can you speak on that?
It's very different from when I came up. It's a lot of different rah-rah type hype music and
Thugs, but with your words.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Sure.
All right.
I like how you said Bone Thugs because that's my group right there.
Okay, hey, they the goats. They one of the goats.
My group right there. That's how I learned how to rap fast from Bone Thugs.
So you know, but I'm tired of denying myself. This is what I'm about. This is what I want to do.
Since birth?
So you've been an entertainer since birth?
Yes.
What was your first performance?
Church.
Hey man,
Started.
you started like what?
You know, I kind of always been into just being a creator, an artist.
Okay.
I used to
Like,
draw.
what do you mean? Always like
Yeah.
elementary?
Yeah, just into artistic things.
Green Lounge LA, Mad Boots Entertainment, and Angels Clubhouse Empire presents The Struggle. I'm Hove, and this is...
Richard Asperger, and you can find me on Instagram at Richard Asperger Comedian.
Okay, sir. You're a comedian.
Correct.
Got to go straight at it. The name Asperger is the first laugh you usually get. What's the next one?
Richard.
So you... Dick at... Oh, man.
Yeah, exactly. Dick,
So when they said
Dick
your last
Asperger.
name first and as Dick.
You know, it was worse for my sister, actually.
Oh. Hit me with it. Hold on.
Because when they would do last name first, she hated it.
What's her last name? I mean, first name.
Patty.
Asperger Patty.
She hated it.
So then that turned to anal Patty.
Yeah. Actually, you know, she ended up marrying a baker. She did. She married a baker. His name's John Cakes.
Are you serious?
Serious. Now my sister is Patty Cakes married to a baker's man.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, he was born for this comedy, as you can see. So tell us how you first got into comedy, man.
Well, I always thought I was funny because I could make people laugh in regular conversation. And about 4 years ago, I asked a friend of mine who was a former comedian if he had any contacts, and he turned me on to a couple, and I started doing comedy.
What was the first time and what place was that when you first lit the stage up?
When I first lit the stage up, the Ice House in Pasadena.
I know about that one. I've been there.
It's
You get some good
legendary.
walk-ins.
Yeah, it's a legendary club, and that I've done about 10 appearances there. I produce a show there now every other month, so it's a great.
You produce a show?
I do produce.
So you throw
Yeah.
events.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Talk to us. What is that like for a comedian? Because I throw events, and I came from being a host, but from being a comedian, your viewpoint would be different. What was your experience like?
My experience hosting, well, first off, you know, you got to know some funny people to pack the seats, and it's a great feeling of accomplishment. You know, we get some top-notch comics on our bill, and
Who have you worked with?
Well, we work with Eric Schwartz, who just filmed his second special right now that's available on YouTube.
Okay.
He's killing it. He's got over, I think, 1.5 million views right now, and it just was released in December.
Okay.
We do, we have Shang Forbes this coming month. We have Hurricane. We have a lot of good comedians on our bill. It's amazing.
That's amazing. Because I was at this agency and I had a buddy named Mitch Cumming, and he had did the Ice House. So that's how I first knew about it. Mitch is pretty good too. But let me ask you this. Right now, comedy is in the hot seat.
Right.
A king has been let out of the blackball jail.
Right.
And he's been blowing up the internet. Tell me your take on this. I think it's a duel. I'll tell you what I think. I think Cat Williams is trying to do what he did to Steve Harvey, but to Kevin Hart.
Right. Well, I think that any publicity is good publicity, even if it's bad. I
don't know. When he
He
got beat up by that 16-year-old, I don't think he wanted that public.
That's true. That's true. I think he's a great comedian, and
Awesome. Amazing.
He's right now. We're doing a podcast,
Right.
And people have that media now where someone can do a 3-hour interview with Cat Williams, and he's going to say some stuff that's going to, maybe he had too many edibles beforehand or something,
Right.
And you can get into yourself in trouble. I try to stay out of anything that's too political or divisive because, you're going to lose half the crowd. So,
you know what? But ain't that I think my idea of comedy, right, is the best comedians, right? Because I like George Carlin,
right.
Richard Pryor.
Right.
Those are my two kings.
Right.
They share the throne to me. Richard Pryor because his shock value, right? And he was innovative and he kind of created the fuck you market where, the cursing, he made it popular, right? And then you have George Carlin who was talking about theology and all kinds of subjects, but making it funny. And he did it for such a long time.
He did.
So I respect them both as the king. Like they share the crown. Who would you say is your king?
Oh shit! There's so many good comics. Richard Pryor is one of my favorites. I mean, obviously, I think
all hail the king.
He was exposing things back in the '70s, and I think a lot of modern comics, follow in his footsteps. I think a lot of people.
If you cursing in your stand-up,
I mean, I'm a blue comic. I curse in my comedy, but Richard addressed. You look at a lot of his old stuff. He addressed a lot of the racism in America,
right?
In a division of not even necessarily a division, but the differences between whites and blacks. And I think, and seeing how I've done a lot of comedy, there's still a division, or that's still a brand of comedy, if you will, a type of comedy where minority or a black comedian will do a lot of that stuff that I think Richard Pryor was doing 40 years ago.
Right.
It was fresher than, but it's still relevant today.
It is. Yeah. Because we still have racism.
Yeah.
But once that's out the door, that shtick gonna be done.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this: right now, who would you say the king of comedy is? Right now, hands down.
Well, I think, someone like Bill Burr.
He's making a lot of things happen, TV shows and everything.
Yeah, Bill Burr's big. Joe Rogan has gone on to superstardom and, practically a billionaire or whatever. But
he's not really a comedian. He does do stand-up.
He does do stand-up. He started.
And he's good. He's good.
But he's turned that into a podcast. And, so he uses his voice and... I
like his show, by the way.
Yeah. So
I'll smoke a blunt and watch his show.
So he's there's a few out there that I really enjoy. I mean, I really enjoy. I'm a blue comic, but I enjoy clean comedy too. There's Jim Gaffigan. Is really funny.
So let me ask you this: as a comic, and I know a few of them actually, in the beginning stages, you see them crafting their jokes, learning to even craft the joke.
Yeah, that's hard.
I see people go through that process of struggling, right?
Right.
What was it like for you to begin to draw audience? When you get to that, when you just barely get on there, you have no audience. How did you overcome that as a comedian?
Well, the social media. I mean, as far as building the brand.
The presence, right.
Yeah, so being able to get on stage and realizing that's not funny. Storytelling is not necessarily stand-up comedy. So if you got a funny story that ends with a guy almost hit me in the parking lot and it goes on for 5 minutes and you got 3 laughs in 5 minutes, it's not stand-up comedy. So being able to develop, stand-up, kind of like, Asperger Patty,
right.
Or that type of thing, where there's a punch at the end and it's not a long buildup. So that developing that to where you're trying to get a laugh every 20 to 30 seconds.
You know what's interesting to me is when Dave Chappelle did his last.
I love Dave Chappelle.
Love him. He's the true king right now, right?
True king.
And then after him, I think it's Cat.
Yeah.
And I think that's why everybody's scared of him. But to me, so Dave Chappelle did these stand-ups and he showed you what framework is in comedy. So he started with a joke here and then he did jokes all in between, but those all looped back to the original joke and he bounced. And how much of that is important to comedy now, and should people take his advice? Because pretty much he gave you a comedy special, but he showed you the blueprint to successful comedy.
I think that's very important. I think that's important for new comics to realize. Like I say, a long-winded story that with the punchline at the end isn't really funny.
Right.
But, the way Dave Chappelle starts with a joke and then just kind of keeps going with it, and leads you back to the same joke. It's amazing. I loved his last special.
Man, come on now.
Yeah, I mean, it was just hilarious. He's the king.
He really
He
is.
is right now. I mean, you don't get much bigger than Dave Chappelle.
You don't. And what's crazy is Kevin Hart's more popular. Pack out more shows.
Yeah.
But he still has to take a back seat.
Yeah, absolutely. And I watched Kevin's last special too, and I thought,
How was that? How did you think about that?
I thought it was okay. I mean, I didn't think it was.
Do you think Kevin's falling off?
A little bit?
Like kind of.
But I mean, he's living in a mansion and
Right.
driving a fancy car. He's got a big fat wallet.
But this is comedy though. Comedy. We don't care about your money. We
Yeah.
care about your
But
relevance. Your best joke.
Yeah, and to keep us laughing when you're doing it. So I didn't care for his last special that much, but I mean, I thought it was a long-winded story with very little punchlines.
So it wasn't necessarily stand-up, is what you're saying.
Yeah. But he's done. I respect everything he's done. Everything he's done for himself, and
Okay, so you're doing your shows, and you've done the Ice House.
right.
Now, as you do these shows, and now you're stepping up to do event promotions. I'm assuming club promotion too, because when you event plan, club promotion kind of goes right. What would you say to the younger artists? Because I notice in comedy, y'all really don't help the next artist. Y'all don't watch the show a lot of times. Y'all get up and bounce. What would you say that's important for the next comic to learn who's stepping into this industry?
Don't quit. Don't.
Even if they suck.
Everybody has to start somewhere, and like I said,
But they suck.
you suck so bad. I know people who suck terribly, man, and they get out there every night and they do it. And so the only way to get better at something is to continue to do it. So I think that some people, they need to be more honest with themselves. Don't fall in love with your material. If it's not working, it's not working. You look at some other ways to make people laugh. Set up punch is very important in stand up.
Yeah, it is.
So some people, I think they misunderstand. Like I said, when I wanted to get into comedy, I thought I would do it because I can make people laugh when we're talking. But then getting up on stage and having a structured set that you can go through, hi, my name's Richard Asperger, you thought that was a stage name, and then go through, everybody knows the nickname,
Right.
shout it out, and then, there's this, a process of just coming up with the jokes and keep them coming and keep the people laughing and all that. So, at first,
what would you say to a comic who's bombing? Because it sucks to see
it's
a
terrible.
comic bomb. So you kind of sit there and watch the whole, secretly cheer them on,
Yeah, you try to
But
laugh.
what advice would you give the up and coming comic who's bombing, not intentionally, but it's just one of those days? What would you say to help them recover?
It was 2019, Thanksgiving Eve. So the night before Thanksgiving, I'm sharing the bill with Eric Schwartz. He's, like I said, he's one of my favorites, and I bombed terribly. I mean, I died like 1,000 deaths in 10 minutes.
In front of everybody.
Everybody. It was tough. So it was bad. So the next morning, I get up and I'm watching. It was Thanksgiving morning, and I couldn't even watch the Thanksgiving Day parade. I turned it on to A&E or something, and they were doing a documentary on Evel Knievel.
Oh, I remember him.
Evel Knievel, man, and I'm like, I literally felt sick to my stomach that morning. I woke up, I bombed so bad the night before. I was hating life, and I'm watching this documentary on Evel Knievel, and they showing all of his famous crashes.
Mm-hmm.
Evel could crash, tumble down the blacktop, and break all of the bones in his body, and then 3 months later he'd be back on Wide World of Sports, riding willies and jumping buses. And I thought, if that cocksucker can
Kill himself almost.
kill himself, break every bone in his body multiple times, and get up and do it again, then I could get up and do it again. So bombing is just part of the process. You don't want to do it, but when it happens, you have to embrace it and dust yourself off and get back on stage.
Well, let's talk about it, because most people act like bombing. One, a lot of people want to act like they never bombed.
Ah, shit.
Two, people act like bombing is the end all. And I think it's important for comics to understand, like, nah, you know what? Now you finally got some skin in the game.
Yeah.
Like, congratulations. Now you're in the game for real. Well, if you come back after you bomb.
Right.
I think even all other comedians be like, hey, yo, I remember when I had my time. Because I've seen it. Hey, bro, don't trip. Come on, let's go.
Yeah.
You know? So I think a comic is not really a comic until after they bomb and came back.
Right. I think Mike Tyson said everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the face.
He did say that.
And, it's the same with stand-up, man. Everybody's got a plan. Everybody's funny until you get up on stage in front of, like, a club full of people you don't know, and you're embarrassing yourself because you're not funny.
Right.
You know, and some nights your timing's bad. The crowd is not into you. It sucks, but it's just part of the deal. Don't quit. That's why I said that's the best advice, man. Don't quit.
How would a comic know the difference between his material not landing and, like, his material not being good and the crowd just not into you?
Well,
that's just not your crowd.
That's just not.
How do you identify the two? Because it can be tricky.
It can be tricky, man. And then, I blamed the crowd before, and then I saw the next guy go up and kill it. So, it's tough. And those are lessons you have to learn. You have to decipher, that for yourself. Was the material that killed, and I've seen comics, big name comics go, well, hey, that joke worked in Iowa last night. It didn't work here. It's
right.
Is it your timing? Is it your delivery? Are you just going through the motions?
That too.
It's like, oh, this always works. Oh, and then it doesn't. So
before we get out of here, can you go ahead and look into the camera and encourage your fellow beginning comics? What advice would you give them?
Don't quit. You're gonna suck. Just keep going. I mean, if it's your dream, it's your passion, you have to take it on the chin a few times. That's what I would do. That's what my best advice is. Don't quit.
So said Puffy. Don't play. Ladies and gentlemen, we hope you had either a laugh or learned something today. We appreciate you. We respect you. We thank you. Peace.
Peace.
We out.